The Skull and Bones closed beta gave us 6 hours to roleplay a pirate going around the East Indies and the high seas. Up until this point, we've spent our time sailing the seas. We've boarded ships and plundered their loot, taking anything that wasn't bolted down, and we've slowly climbed the ranks to become a little more infamous as we sail around our ship. Now, as we close out our adventure in Skull and Bones, it's time to wrap up some loose ends, and, hopefully, get everything we can out of our final couple hours in the closed beta, until the game finally comes out in February. By now, our ship boasts a couple extra sails than it did before, and we're too busy customizing our ship in some 18th century bling to help out this rando in distress. Those spikes that I can potentially add don't seem too OSHA regulated, so we stick with some regular paint trims, we swap out the clothes of our crew, and for some reason we can add a striped lemur to our ship. Don't think that's gonna help us out much, but it's there. We can do it. Now I really hope OSHA doesn't inspect my ship anytime soon. I don't think the monkey is up to code. With my ship finally decked out to the best of my liking, I return to the docks of St. Anne and head to the mailbox where I pick up a personalized letter sent just for me for leveling up from a Son of Liberty, which ironically gives me even more customization options for my ship after I just spent all that time working on it. And speaking of customization, what better way to spend my final couple hours in the closed beta than by returning to our own little pirate mall and seeing what clothes are for sale this time around. But unlike our first episode of Skull and Bones, I don't spend my entire life savings on clothes, and I actually saved my silver this time. My clothes are good enough anyway, I don't need any new ones. After I exit the pirate mall and upset everyone by not buying anything, I go ahead and return to Skurlock, where I go ahead and get some more missions to earn even more silver, really adding up my count. And I'm glad Skurlock approves of my ship. This time around, Skurlock has me borrowing some goods off French company ships that are sailing around St. Anne and the East Indies in general. Meanwhile, the bounty board outside Skurlock's office is handing out some cash for kills, offering some serious silver and a little bit of infamy and loot in exchange for sinking some enemy ships. So I go ahead and take the hunter-hunted contracts, and once I reach the docks, I speak to my first mate, where she tells me how much Skurlock likes to give us missions. I set sail and board my ship, going off into the direction of some French trade lines, where I can find the ale that I'm looking for, and which they hopefully generously give me, but I imagine there'll be a fight. With a whistle, my crew starts singing as we sail away, but along the way, a world event spawns to the east. A convoy of French merchant ships is making their way to the colonies in the East Indies, offloading various goods and luxuries that came from the homeland. And while the soldiers of the French elite colonies might use these supplies, so could I as a well-to-do pirate. Even though it's not connected to my current quest, no honest pirate would turn down the opportunity to score a little extra loot in the high waves. And so the journey to the French convoy takes us through some especially rough waves and choppy seas, with the wind soaring in our ears. A half-damaged French ship makes itself known to us, and I begin firing away on my ship's sides to hopefully board it, and get some extra treasure while on my way to the fleet. But my shots don't do too much given how over-leveled the French ship is compared to my own, and especially compared to the massive difference in armaments. Plus, I'm not the best at actually hitting my targets properly when there are seas coming. Out of nowhere, a rogue wave appears, and with no opportunity to turn in time, my crew braces for impact, but instead we explode in a fiery blaze. I'm forced to respawn at the cost of some silver, and decide to turn tail and run away from these French ships as quickly as I can. The little bit of extra loot isn't really worth it anymore, considering how my ship is already damaged. With my sails all raised at once, we head in the opposite direction and find a safe haven on a nearby island where we can get away from the French ships once and for all. We head in the direction of the Moyenne Creek, and once on the peaceful shores of the island, we find a fellow shipwrecked pirate, and given the much needed lesson that we learned earlier, I go ahead and get some repair kits for the future. If I plan on raiding any more convoys, I'm going to need them. I repair the damages of my ship in the dock, and go ahead and set sail once more on the seas. Back on track with our main quest to get the ale, our crew sings some shanties along the way, and we head back to the main area directly outside St. Anne. The sea people in Clan Farr continuing their endless fighting provides us with some free entertainment until we sail a little bit further ahead and we come across those French ships that are carrying the ale we so desperately need to complete Skurlock's mission. Using our spyglass, we go ahead and confirm they have the loot we need, and once we go ahead and attack, some shots to the ship's bow kills the mood. But as a generous pirate, I spare the French crews and board them instead of sinking them into the depths, which has nothing to do with the bonus loot I get for boarding, of course. I try to follow suit with 2 more ships, but the one on the left proves a little bit too bold for my taste, and so rather than being able to board it, instead I have to sink it outright, having that ship explode in a fiery blaze this time. Then we board what must be a ghost ship as we hook our hooks into nothing, and once I go ahead and take all the loot on that ship, I see that the nearby French outpost doesn't offer me the ale that I need, so I go ahead and leave. Where, when the sun rises, I find a fellow pirate on the high seas, with a nifty Rainbow Six avatar icon too. We head back to the docks and our friendly untextured rocks spawn back into existence when we first enter. Once we go ahead and return to Skurlock to give him the 8 of 6 ale we managed to get, he apparently heard about my unfortunate sinking on the rough seas. But the good thing is, I already did pay back those French ships. Taking on a mission that doesn't involve me pummeling French ships into oblivion, I fire quick and fast into a Clan of Farr ship that is plenty times larger than my own. But that's not enough to dissuade me from being a proper pirate, and it goes sinking into the depths below. Once I get rid of that ship, an entire fleet of Farr ships suddenly appear into existence like a bunch of zombies you'd find in your Minecraft world. So I go ahead and make my rounds, firing off my shots, making sure my hooks land into an actual ship this time, and board the enemy Farr ships one by one, on top of sinking whichever ones aren't too welcome to being boarded. One of these ships seems to also think that we're playing GTA C Edition, and starts to scrape the side of my ship and attempt to overtake it. While my aim might not be the best, it's eventually enough, and I managed to sink another Farr ship deep into the seas below, because frankly I don't have the time to board ships that are now very hostile to me. At this point I must be the main character of the high seas, as I've managed to sink what I can only count as half a dozen Farr ships, all by myself in the middle of an abandoned ocean, while random fire bursts suddenly appear out of nowhere, and there's no one else to even help me, so I'm truly on my own here. And so, after more circling than a NASCAR race, and too many cannon shots later, my ship emerges intact from the fight, and the enemy fleet is finished. But hey, your watching experience on my channel doesn't need to be finished like those enemy ships were. Consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel here below. You get plenty of content and videos surrounding Skull and Bones, Minecraft, and a bunch of other games that I've not only done in the past, but also I plan on doing in the future. In return, I get validation and much needed distraction from my law school work. And since I just started a new semester and am absolutely not ready for it, I would not mind a distraction. So go ahead and drop a like and a subscription. It costs nothing, and it makes me a little bit happier. Night falls and the seas are surprisingly calm, enough so that I don't even bother to board this enemy Farr ship to ruin the mood, which is a sentiment that apparently some of the other NPC ships don't exactly share. So, even though I'm not exactly a lawman and I'm more along the lines of a pirate, I decide to teach this enemy ship a little lesson instead, and fire away to make sure they know the consequences of ruining the peace on the high waves. While shooting that giant red barrel is very convincing on the back of their ship, I managed to hold myself back and ruin the peace myself by instead blowing the enemy ship up in a fiery blaze right next to an island, where I hope none of the ecology or animals ended up being damaged. Once that enemy ship is gone, I end up having to sail more than 6,000 miles away to my next objective, which, as you can imagine, ends up being quite the trek itself, especially for someone who doesn't want to use quick travel to ruin the immersion. While I'm along the way during my 6,000 mile journey, I go ahead and go through my inventory, seeing what I have, which is food, guns, and random bags of loot. But In the distance, I spot French convoy ships that toss me out of my inventory, and once I notice them, I get my consumables ready and notice that another world event has spawned. A French merchant convoy, much like the last one, has spawned in, but unlike last time, I'm convinced to actually reach the trade lines with my ship intact. And to do this, I go ahead and avoid all of those choppy, churny seas that I went through last time, making sure that I don't explode into fiery glory in the rough seas this time around. While I do manage to successfully make it to the Colonial Shipment World event, there's no one else here but me, and I face the rough reality that it's impossible for me to face off against ships that are drastically overleveled compared to my own. So like a true pirate, I turn tail and run, leaving the world event where that convenient border tells me where it actually ends. While I'm escaping from the colonial shipment line, the French and Dutch ship that are off in the distance begin fighting each other and firing away. So with that much needed and convenient distraction away from my own escape, I head back into the rough waves, hoping that none of the enemy ships keep chasing me down or notice that I just attempted to raid 3 of their convoy ships. Back in the safety of St. Anne and docked in the harbor, I turned in some quests to complete some previous contracts from one of the island's store owners that I took earlier in the closed beta. Once I submit them and give this trader the goods I promised to get, the contract is complete. I also managed to level up my infamy a little bit and unlock the next tier of ships that are available in the closed beta. But being this so close to the end of my own beta limit 6-hour time, there's not much use in getting those ships. I head to the mailbox and pick up the final letter from the Son of Liberty, seeing the last cosmetics I'm allowed. While it might be ironic to match these words together, if you've been an honest pirate and braved the seas with me during all 3 videos for the Skull and Bones closed beta, I thank ye immensely. My time in Skull and Bones is over for now, with my ships docked in St. Anne and my sails furled up, ready to set sail on the seas in February. But for now, she's in dock, and I have some law work to do.